Greetings and salutations, fine people. I'm Patti Alvarez. Welcome to The Good Soul, a show where we'll have supercharged chats with everyday humans from all walks of life and unpack what in their story will inspire us all. We'll extract the untapped wisdom, distill it, and serve it up to you in all the right ways that will engage, enlighten, and most of all, inspire growth within your soul. I think people are awesome. So join me on this journey through the hearts and minds of ordinary people to uncover the good soul within you. This is The Good Soul. Hello, beautiful girls and boys. Welcome to The Good Soul, episode 40, Financial Wellbeing, Part 2. So it was Gertrude Stein that once said, "I've been rich and I've been poor, and it's much better to be rich." Today, along with the help of my great friend Traci, we'll explore the vital connection between financial well-being and mental health and find useful methods through learning about her super impactful program, Unlocking Financial Wellness. In our can't stop, won't stop world, financial stress can weigh heavily on our minds, messing with our overall happiness and sense of security, which kind of ends up blurring all the lines. When we cultivate a solid financial foundation, we not only reduce anxiety and worry, we also create space for clarity and peace of mind so we can be joyful. Join us as we delve into Traci's practical strategies, and we'll mix in some inspiring stories that highlight how taking control of our finances can lead to improved mental health, fostering a more balanced and fulfilling life. Guys, I am here for it. So welcome back, Traci Shanklin, doing the little intro today. Welcome back. It's so great to have you.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be back and talking about this really important subject.
It's really important. It plays such a huge role in, I know, my mental health. So if you haven't watched episode 1, I want you to go back and watch episode 1 because that will really kind of tease you and get you really excited for what we're about to talk about today, which is how are we going to make all of this kind of apply to your lives and also to inspire you to take actionable steps, hopefully by enlisting with the help of Traci here, on how to just balance out our finances and live our best lives. So Traci, without further ado, welcome back.
Thank you.
You are a mother of 2.
I am.
A happy wife living in Lake Norman.
Actress.
She's a former actress. Yes. Yes. We were talking about the actor-actress terminology and what we should say. I say either one, right? Whatever feels right for you.
Right.
So tell me a little bit about what inspired you to create the Financial Wellbeing Program.
Well, the short answer is that I worked in the institutional financial space for 20 plus years. And I started a podcast myself on that really focused on that niche. So focused on the institutional space, talking to professionals, fund professionals that worked with pension funds. And one of the common themes and conversations that we would end up having revolved around financial literacy and well-being that was associated with finances. And that there was really a missing link between what was happening in the institutional space and how we were preparing people for that next phase, the retirement phase. And I started,
these are your clients.
These were my clients at the time.
Okay.
In the institutional space. So pension plans.
Okay. And these are personal people, their personal finances, or did you also work?
So I did do a little bit of work in one of my, with one of the companies I worked for where we did do education. So we would go in, they were self-directed pension plans, 401k type programs. And we would go in and help people understand their own risk tolerance and where they might want to self-direct their funds to on the retirement side. But the conversations I was having on this podcast were really taking on a broader look and saying, people are struggling in that paycheck to paycheck cycle that we've talked about, or just, buried in some kind of debt. Or, as we mentioned in the last episode, there's 37% of people can't afford a $400 emergency urgency. And so this is really impacting well-being as a holistic look at wellness. Mm-hmm. And that's really what drove me to do it, is that I started to see that these participants that were in these plans, they're actual individuals, needed help. And I wanted to be part of that solution. And
sure.
Yeah.
Did the companies that you were working for, were you inspired by some of the methodologies that they used, or did you go out and kind of like do your own learning, or a combination?
I would say it's a combination. I mean, obviously, I think that, when you get later, in my opinion, what I was doing when I was working with the retirement company was really something that should be happening at like the third phase, because really you have to start at the beginning. You have to start at, do you have your finances, your day-to-day finances under control? Mm-hmm. And often the answer is no. A lot of people don't. And and it's not that they are that they can't, it's that it's a real struggle. There's a lot of resistance that goes into dealing with that day-to-day financial struggle, or that day-to-day just looking at the truth of where things are.
So what are some common excuses or like kind of cries that you would hear from your clients?
Well,
I can't get my head around it. It's overwhelming.
I think it's overwhelming. I think that, the second that you start talking about a budget, they're like, oh, I've done a budget before. And what I have found with people is most of the time when they think they've done a budget, what they've done is they've done some projections, they've done some forecasting into the future, but they've also done a little bit of, regressive looking at where they've spent money in the past. But they're not really dealing with the now. They're dealing with like taking a look at the past is very helpful. It's great information to have because it does give us a sense of where we've spent our money. And we'll get into one of the pillars of my workshops and programs that I put together, one-on-one coaching and in programs. It is really does do some looking back. But one of the things that isn't terribly helpful is forecasting. It's helpful from a sense of maybe just setting some baseline targets, but it does not allow you to manage your money in the moment.
Okay. Even daily forecasting, like planning. I remember calling a friend once who, when I first moved here, and said, like, just tell me, bottom line, what do you spend a week on food and incidentals? And she said $1,000 a week on food, on soccer uniforms, so forth and so on. So is that usually like, do you take a daily approach, or is that?
Yes and no. I mean, I don't want to worry anyone that you have to look at your budget daily. If you want to, some people like to.
Yeah, it's fun. I love to.
A lot of people who sit down over coffee and do a quick glance at what their budget looks like and whether they're on budget or not. So it is important to kind of have a baseline of, not even to kind of, but to have a baseline of what you want to spend in categories in your life. So looking at, forward casting is target setting, right? So it's setting a target, like I know I'm going to spend X amount of dollars on groceries every week. So that's important information to have, because then you have a sense of what your true expenses are. But what I have found in working with people is they often think they know, but they actually don't have the real answer. So that's why I say forecasting can be tricky if you're not actually following it on, to your point, on a day-to-day basis, or at least weekly. I actually say at least bi-weekly or monthly.
Okay. I think keeping it real is a big factor too, most notably in interest. Manny and I just built a house, and we went, because of the economy being the way it was, we went over budget. So the money that we had budgeted for certain things went into the up costs. And so we ended up putting some of our furniture on credit. And, until you sit down and look at those interest rates, you're like, dude, what is going? I mean, it's so incredibly expensive. But when you hit those minimum payments every month, which I'm sure we can do 10 podcasts on the ridiculousness of interest rates, but It's frightening. I mean, and what you could be spending that money on. I mean, my father used to say, like, if you drop a penny, would you throw the penny in the garbage? No, like every penny counts.
Pick that up.
Yeah, pick that penny up. I turn it on heads. Yes.
Yeah.
So listen, we're going to wrap this up. I want to get into identifying with our core. No, I'm sorry. Yes, that's right. Identifying with our core money values. I'm sorry. In our segment 2, time goes too fast. But guys, we'll catch up with you in just a couple minutes. Thank you for tuning in. Episode 40 of The Good Soul. This segment of The Good Soul is brought to you by Aaron Fisnick, certified luxury home specialist with Ivester Jackson Christie's International Real Estate. Aaron serves all levels of the greater Lake Norman region real estate market, and whether buying or selling, she is very much the lady who will deliver like no other. Many of us at Good Soul are also really happy clients. Aaron can be reached at 704-728-5657 or reach out to me and I'll get you guys connected. Thank you, Aaron Fisnick, and thank you guys for tuning in and supporting The Good Soul. Welcome back, everybody, to The Good Soul episode 40. And I don't know if anybody noticed, but I chopped all my hair off. All my friends from New Jersey are going to be like, you cut your hair. And that was pretty major. Anyway, let's talk about the foundation of the Financial Wellbeing program. And Traci would explain, it is identifying our core money values. So let's talk about that, build on that.
Yeah. So core money values are essentially core values, right? And we hear people talk about them all the time. But I really think that without spending time knowing what you truly value in your life, it's very hard to have a system, a financial system that is going to work for the long haul. The core money values are really those things that are part of our authentic self. They are what drives us to do the things we do. And one of the things that I think they do very well is they help us change spending habits that maybe are negative spending habits, and they really help us make sure that we're setting goals that align with that authenticity. I'll share a quick story that I have a client who's really struggled with, and we'll get into debt, but has really struggled with debt. And I have really struggled helping this person get through the behavioral shift that needs to happen when you have, a crippling debt. And when we were able to really get clear on just one core value, something that I know, like just from seeing how he behaves, is vitally important to him in his life, it has been amazing to see the shift in the way he has just reined in some of his negative spending behavior.
What was that core value?
His core value was gifting.
Oh, gifting. Okay.
Like he loves to gift. But the thing about part of that coupled with that, and I like when I do core value work, and by the way, I have a core value worksheet that I really think helps people get clear on not just the word, because, core values can be family, but that's very broad. What part of family? So I want you to kind of be, Sherlock Holmes, your own core values, to kind of go deeper and explore what does that really mean to them or to yourself. So
meaning like time at home, time on vacation,
right.
letting the kids go to college in, at the London School of Economics or whatever. Right. Okay.
So for him, it was gifting. It seemed like it was gift giving, but but in his definition of gifting, it wasn't just, it included being able to give that special gift that person really wanted despite cost. But it was also about gifting his wife with safety. And I thought it was such an interesting when we finally triggered into that, how it was like you could almost see the light go on. And he sent me a message just yesterday saying he had done something really small like where he was out running an errand and he was like, oh, I'm going to run through Starbucks and get that pumpkin spice latte. But instead he went, nope, I'm going to go home and make a pot of coffee. And it was all because he really connected with this idea that he so desperately wanted to gift his wife the sense of financial security. And I thought it was such an important part of understanding, when you really understand that core money value, it literally changes your behavior in terms of spending. Now, and I'm not an advocate of necessarily not having the Starbucks and depriving yourself.
Nobody is anymore. Nobody says that anymore, right?
Right.
The latte factor.
But it is when you have a small win or a small shift in the way you're thinking about it, you may realize that you can make your pumpkin spice latte at home, right?
And it tastes better, right, honey?
I love mine.
He has,
Every morning.
Yeah, he makes his own,
Like I got it today because here.
Right.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mentioned that I have a core money value worksheet that I give away for free. So it really just lists a bunch of words and it gets you thinking. And it gets you thinking so that you go a little bit deeper than just coming up with, okay, I value travel, I value family, I want more. I want it to be more specific because it has to ignite in you feeling for it to really help change behavior.
Right.
So that's the bottom line on it. So core money values also tell when we look at money, we're asking our money, what job do you want me to do for you?
Okay.
So core money values are often about answering that question. So when you value adventure, let's just say you say travel, but when you really break it down, it's really you love adventure. Or somebody has said to me, I value learning about different cultures. So sometimes it's about the expansion of learning about how other cultures live, and sometimes it's about the adventure. So those two people one probably goes to France and one probably goes on a safari, right?
Sure.
So it becomes different in the way in which they spend their money or how they look at that value.
Well, how do they define adventure?
Right.
Okay.
So I think that it's so when you are really looking at the asking your money, what is the job that you want me to do for you? Sometimes it could be safety. I mentioned this client that I worked with that maybe you want it to make you feel safe. And so then it becomes maybe more about planning for the future. So when you get really clear on that, it's suddenly core money values become like a roadmap to telling us how we should spend our money. And they also become a roadmap for how we should save our money. And they become a roadmap of how, like, they can, not even a roadmap, they can also become like an alarm system when we're getting off course.
Yeah, I'm also thinking too, a destination. In other words, I don't even want to say you are here. I know that when Manny and I had first met, I had been going through some major life changes, and things felt like they were a mess. I mean, on so many levels. And when we met and we fell so deeply in love that there was nothing in the world that was going to stop me from creating this life with which is now my husband. So I love you too. So my love for him inspires me so much to make sure that the lights stay on. And anytime, he needs a Snickers bar or a latte or vice versa, that we have that for one another, that we can. And that's, for me, that's such an inspiration like that. And it would almost be embarrassing, humiliating, and somehow would connect to the quality of love I give him if I can't, if we're struggling at all. So that was very powerful for me. And I always say, like, he makes me a better my love for him, and he makes me a better person. And it comes back to,
I got one.
It really does come back to that core value. Like, so many things are so connected. And I'm sure that your client, the whole gifting thing, it's so much bigger than money. Right?
Yes.
It's so much bigger than money. It's safety, it's security, it's acceptance. It's all these things like rolled up.
Yeah.
So.
And I think that and when he shared it with me, he said it would just feel so good for me to be able to put $500 a month into an account that was just for her. And I was like, that's what you need to hold on to. That's that feeling of what it's going to feel like when you start doing that for her. And to your point, it can be as simple as just knowing, like, I am so committed to this life together that whatever it takes to get there becomes I talked a little bit about neuroplasticity before, but we really connect emotions to our money often. The money can't bring you the feeling. I mean, money can bring you the feeling. It's not doing it for you, but it's bringing the feeling to you, is what I mean to say.
Yeah. Well, and it's a sign. I mean, it's like how you do anything and is how you do everything. We talked about this in the last episode, how, employers look at your credit score when they're hiring you. It really is indicative of something much bigger. Tell me, did he succeed? Is he putting $500 a month away for her?
He hasn't gotten there yet, but he's
on his way. Okay, yes, that's all. That's all. That's the greatest thing.
The most important thing. Yes.
Yeah, that's
theirs too. That's fun too. That's the adventure too.
Yeah, well, and it's also but I think he's also starting to build. It's a trust muscle, right? So I mentioned him making this radical, like the split seems so seemingly small decision to not go through the drive-through at Starbucks and just go home. That was such a mini win for him.
It's a win.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It brings you closer to God. Yeah, that's well, and it is. It's like checking a box. Okay, so we talked about adventure. We talked about gifting.
Yeah.
For me, it's security, I think. Money brings me. Is there any other words that come to mind as we wrap this segment up in terms of core money values?
So we said safety, right? You said safety. There are, sometimes it is to feel close. Sometimes it's about connection. I mean, I often get people telling me like, well, I love to go out to dinner with my family, So they're justifying spending extra money going out. And I often say to them, well, could you find that connection in a different way?
Sure.
Could you go for a hike?
Well, and sometimes they're not good reasons too, right? Yeah. Like trying to impress other people. Yep. Like they're bad core money values.
Yes.
So guys, on that note, we are going to hit pause and we will see you in just a couple minutes for segment 3, God How Time Flies, on The Good Soul. This segment of The Good Soul is brought to you by Aaron Fisnick, certified luxury home specialist with Ivester Jackson, Christie's International Real Estate. Aaron serves all levels of the greater Lake Norman area real estate market, and whether buying or selling, she is very much someone I want in my corner. Aaron prioritizes building strong client relationships based on trust and authenticity. Manny and I should know, having purchased our land through her. She can be reached at 704-728-5657 or reach out to me and I'll get you guys connected. Thank you, Aaron Fisnick, and thank you guys for tuning in and supporting The Good Soul. Oh, how we love that. Welcome back, everybody, to The Good Soul, episode 40. I still can't believe this. We're talking financial well-being. As always, love sitting and talking with my dear, sweet friend, Traci. So we left off talking about our core values, and then we got into, what did we talk about again? Actionable step. No. Can we start over? I fucked up. I'm sorry. Start over. Cut. We talked about in the last segment core values.
Yeah, we did core values.
Oh my God. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm sorry. I felt like I was... okay. Sorry, Joe. We're going to start over. Okay. So we're going to go in 3, 2, 1. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to segment 3 of The Good Soul. I'm sitting here with my dear friend Traci, and we are talking financial well-being. So in segment 2, we covered core values, and I thought rather I thought we would switch things up a little bit and get into our limiting beliefs about money, which is big for me. I had said to you, Traci, during the break, one of my biggest limiting beliefs is I stink with money. I stink with money. I grew up in the 80s. My father, who worked a lot and spent a lot of time away from us in his business, and I say this with all the love in my heart. I'm not criticizing him for it, but money was an easy way to give us love, right? So there's that, which again, I say that with all the gratitude in the world, but it kind of creates this hole in your pocket mentality where for me, I guess I always knew my backup would be my dad if I ever screwed up that big enough where I needed money to pay. Even, when I'm 20 years old, I need an extra couple $100s to cover my rent. My father would be there to help me. And I still kind of work off of that
programming. Yeah.
Yeah. So being self-employed, we talk about the unique. So I'm really not I am sort of on a fixed income, but the business gives me a lot of wiggle room. Right. So if I want to take a big chance and say, sure, we're going to buy the golf cart and we'll put it on the credit card. And I rely on waves. I rely on selling this, or I know that large sum of money is going to come in from that versus this kind of rhythmic pattern. I do have our rhythmic pattern for our core expenses, but when I want to do something like make a big purchase, I'll rely on the wave and I'll take risks and I'll say, I know that money is coming along. And I don't want to do that. I want to have a whole pile of cash in the bank. I want to make sure all the bills are paid, right? And my husband is nodding.
I'm too frugal.
He's very frugal, but that's really good though, because my sister and I have this joke. Yeah, my brother-in-law is a lot like me. And my sister is a lot like my husband. And we always laugh. I always say if Tom and I were ever husband and wife, we would be broke. We would just be broke. That would be it. There would be because he's like, sure, join the country club. Sure, let's do it. And again, he does very well and works very hard. I don't want to misrepresent him in any way. So anyway, reframing limiting beliefs. So Traci, please enlighten us.
So reframing limiting beliefs was something that, I leaned back into a time in my life when I was really struggling with self-confidence. I was in my my late 20s, and I mentioned that I was in pageants. And so this goes back to my pageant days where I was really trying to overcome this feeling of self-worth, that I wasn't good enough. And that's really at the core of what you're saying. Because you said, I stink with money, right? Mm-hmm. That's what you said is one of the things that you have as almost like a recorder that's going off in your head. And I read a book, and his name is, it's Stan Mester, I think. He wrote something called The Self-Talk Solution.
Okay, and I'm writing this down.
It really is a book. It's old, obviously, so I date myself, but it really talked about this reframing. And since then, we have lots of gurus out there who talk about reframing limiting beliefs all over the place. So it is not an uncommon thing to look at. But where money is concerned, I think that sometimes the dialogue or the narrative we're telling ourselves that's on repeat is really it's sneakier, because it comes often from our family background. You mentioned, you think that it started with your dad, and that was the way in which he showed love. So I think. And there was probably some piece of that because he was giving you money. He was giving it to you, to
at no
show
cost.
His love.
At no cost,
you somehow stopped believing that you, and this is not about you completely, that a lot of people have this, but that you somehow stopped believing that you could be good with money because you were a kid taking the money and going out and spending it at, haphazardly without direction, as most kids would do. But we embed in us some shame around that is very hard to unwind.
Shame.
Yeah.
Keyword.
Oof, done.
Shame. Dun, 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 dun. Yes.
I know, really.
Yes.
And so when I talk about reframing money limiting beliefs, I really talk about, I talk about taking what that concept of I stink with money and kind of catching it in action when it starts to go off, because you're not going to stop it. You have this is ongoing. You've been doing it for however many years you've been doing it. It's very hard to stop that recorder from going off in your head, but catching it in action and stopping, taking that breath and saying to yourself, I am good with money. I am capable of learning how to be good with money. Or even citing evidence that you're good with money. I have a successful business that I run. I am good with money.
Can I just intervene? Yeah. Because it's just, I'm having such a powerful feeling right now because I don't want to say I love, but I think it's really important to point out to people that their behaviors usually reflect the moment of trauma in their life, right? So I'm not saying I had financial trauma, but, if somebody, I want to say if they were abused by a parent at 8 years old, they typically have the emotional capacity of an 8-year-old. Now, obviously, we know that's not true in all cases, but I feel like it ranged through a lot with finances. I have a successful business. We live in a beautiful home in a beautiful neighborhood that I'm going to guess 95% of the people on the planet would love to live in, right? We have a shiny, we're doing great, right? We're doing great. Are we perfect? No. But my sister, who is sort of like the voice of my father now and is sort of like my new kind of, she's like my accountability. She doesn't even know, well, maybe she knows it a little bit, but I want to, I don't want to say impress her. That's not the word. I want to please her and I want to make her proud like I did my dad. And she said to me about a year ago, we were talking about me and something, and she said, Patti, you have got your shiza, your together, and I was like, wow, that was so nice of you. So I don't mean to go off on a tangent, but it's so kind of like, it's like checking myself. Like, no, you're not so bad. Don't be so hard on yourself.
And I think that's really at the core of reframing money beliefs or any negative belief that is going off in our head. It is really catching yourself in the moment and reminding yourself you do have your SHIT together, right?
Yeah.
Really, really stopping and saying that I am enough in this situation.
Thank you, Traci. Yeah. Do you still have those insecurities?
Absolutely.
You do.
And I do have some money trauma because I had a stepfather who was not good with money. And so we had creditors calling and stuff like that.
Yeah.
When I was,
thankfully we didn't have that. My father was great with money.
And he actually did steal from me. So I have some trauma around finances specifically, and I've had to work through that. And I definitely have, I should have seen it coming kind of voice in my head. You knew, why did you give him that check to deposit when you knew he wasn't
there? The money wasn't there. The money wasn't in the bank. That's really interesting. No, my mother used to say, my father grew up so poor. She used to say, he'll squeeze a nickel till the bull, what?
Yeah.
My father was, but that's got to be frightening for you as a child too. Are we going to be able to eat and all that stuff?
Are we going to have to move suddenly?
Or embarrassing too?
With friends. I had a lot shame, a lot of embarrassment and shame around it.
Okay, so we have to wrap this segment up, but I really want to identify in the next segment at the top of the next segment some limiting beliefs. And then let's get let's start to get into planning for true expenses and taking steps. And that's going to be a teaser because I want you guys to reach out to Traci. And not only that, but we'll have some type of workshop or something event at the studio to kind of build on all of this great stuff. So guys, don't go away. We'll see you for the last segment on The Good Soul. Thank you. This segment of The Good Soul is brought to you by Aaron Fisnick, certified luxury home specialist with Ivester Jackson, Christie's International Real Estate. Erin's not only an amazing agent, but she's also an amazing friend to me with a diverse mix of happy Lake Norman clients, each with their very own unique circumstance and challenge. She's a one-of-a-kind boss lady who I endorse wholeheartedly. Erin can be reached at 704-728-5657 or reach out to me and I'll get you guys connected. Thank you, Erin Fisnick, for adding your magic to all of your real estate transactions, and thank you guys for tuning into and supporting the show. We are eternally grateful. Mwah. Big kisses. Welcome back, everybody, to The Good Soul. We're already on segment 4 of episode 40, Financial Wellbeing, Part 2, right? So we just finished in the third segment talking about our limiting beliefs around money, which I think is probably is the most powerful component of all because it really kind of gets into our past. So can you just let's kind of talk a little bit about some specific limiting beliefs that people have and see if anybody can identify.
Well, one of the most common ones is money is the root of all evil.
Oh,
yeah. We'll start with that one. Which comes from the Bible, which really is not money is the root of all evil. It's the love of money that is the root of all evil. That's what the Bible actually says. However, one of the reframes that I always work with that one is that money gives us the ability to help and gift people that we love with wonderful things, right? So it isn't evil. It gives us the capacity to share and help people. And I think that that's a big reframe around that idea, is that having money is not bad. Actually, having money gives us the ability to do really wonderful things.
Yeah. And the art of exchange, right? And compensation. And I just have to tell you a quick story. During COVID, a friend of mine who owns a food business went online and she said, I think rent should be free. People shouldn't have to pay rent. Now, that is how my sisters and I make a large portion of our income. And I said to her on a Facebook comment, which I don't normally do, I said, well, what's more fundamental and needed in life than food and nourishment? So what do you say you start giving away all your food? And she was up. And you're also depriving people, I think, of by gifting is great. And I'm not, but by the exchange also enables us to really feel good about ourselves in a way. So I think you're doing people a huge disservice by not and allowing them to give back to you in some way. So the art of exchange. I'm sorry. It's like,
Yeah. There's, I think it's Mark Butler, who I just listened to one of his podcasts, and he talks about that money is more of an exchange of energy, right? To your point.
Yeah.
That it's not just money in and of itself is just, it's not really, it's more of we're exchanging energy and an energetic, we're exchanging energy.
Well, another big one too is like our girls now, they're all still on her cell phone. They're also, and I said to Manny and I said to the girls, get ready in January. You're all going to get your own cell phone plans. And as much as I love doing everything and I want to do everything and make their lives as easy as possible, but I think we are handicapping them. Like they have to get their own cell phone. Yeah. I mean, it's just like, what are we, I don't think we're helping at a certain point when they get to a certain age. So, I mean, that's again, teens and money. That's a whole nother podcast. Yeah. So, and I also, another limiting belief, I always like, all rich people are bad. All rich people. I'm like, no, every person I know for the most part who's rich is the most hardworking, coolest, like bad, we said this in the last episode. Well, we're sleeping, they're working,
and that's one that I have heard before too, is that people think that it goes into that evil. It goes into the idea that there's evil around having money. I think another one that I hear a lot is, and we already touched on this really, but just said it a little bit differently, is that I'm terrible with money, or I don't, or I'm not smart enough to understand how to manage money. Those sort of, to me, are kind of the same thing. And I go into the reframing it to say, I am capable of learning. I am capable of learning anything new. And there is always evidence in all of our lives of something that we've learned to do. Frankly, we could, start from the beginning. We all learn to walk. We all learn to brush our teeth.
Sure.
So
learn anything.
We are capable of learning new behaviors and understanding things that may seem complex that you just have, when you are given it in a simple way, you can definitely learn it. It's really... money is really just addition and subtraction.
Yeah. My father had an old saying, you make so much and you spend so much.
Right.
It's very simple. Well, I'm broke. Well, I remember saying this once to Jessie, man, what am I going to do? She's worried. And I said, Jessie, it's very simple. Spend less and find ways to make more money. Yeah. That's how you're going to get out of it. It's that simple.
Everybody says that.
Yeah, spend less and make more. Yeah. So buy more. No, I'm only kidding. Yeah. So, and then another thing, I think that's one of my favorite books I've ever read. I'm sure you've read is Atomic Habits.
Yes.
And if you have,
oh my gosh, I just wrote about Atomic Habits today.
So, you're kidding me?
No.
Yeah. Oh wow, it's cosmic. I really love that book. And another thing too, I just want to kind of go back a little bit. I always say in the yoga room, when people are like, no, I can't touch my toes. I can barely touch my knees. And I'm like, I guarantee you, if you come here every day and you try to touch your knee and then you try to touch your shin, and then before you know, it's like, it's all very simple. Yeah. You bang at it every day. It's going to end up working out.
Yeah. I have used yoga analogies many times in my teaching because it's really, it's like everything is important and nothing is important, which I think is a key concept in yoga, is that, it is really about the micro steps we take. And if we can change ourselves physically with micro steps, we can change our money with micro steps as well.
Well, that's what I don't like about my wave mentality. I don't want to live like that. Like, I have a big sum of money coming from that. And no, that's not.
Well, some
I want
of that
to be. I want to be, and I want to hum away.
Money. It's not money in your hand. It's a very specific thing. So when you're living on a true budget, you're actually only budgeting the money you have on hand. Right. You're not budgeting the money that you expect to get, because then that's when we can get into debt cycle stuff.
Yeah. Okay, so we have about 5 minutes left, 4 minutes left, actually. So let's talk about actionable steps and planning for true expenses.
Yeah, so the first actionable step you can take in building an actionable budget is really getting clear on what your true expenses are. So this is not just the obvious. It's not just, your lights, your rent or mortgage, your groceries. It's not just that stuff. We're talking about those infrequent yet expected expenses too, where sometimes they get lost in the shuffle. And I find this to be like anyone who I know or that I've worked with that is really living in kind of either a paycheck to paycheck cycle or relying on what I call the credit card float to kind of get them through. Typically, it's because they haven't identified their true expenses. So they haven't done the work to really research their expenses. What do I actually spend my money on to live this lifestyle? And that is a really big question, because one of the things I think that's so odd is that people really don't know how much is enough.
Yeah.
They don't know what their enough is. And I'm not talking about like saying, so you have to know, okay, what is the baseline I need? And then what is the extra that I want to live this lifestyle? Because one of the things that I've heard other gurus talk about in the financial space is really this idea of, what if your bank account was at zero? You have to have a plan for that. And part of that plan is knowing what you need. Like, what is that baseline I have to have just to keep this going for 30 days, and that is such an important piece.
So keep it real.
Yeah, keep it real. And it can be confronting. That's one of the things that confronting that truth is always a little bit, it can be shocking. I've worked with clients that first moment when they're looking at the reality of what they actually spend. So to your point, you mentioned calling a friend and her saying, well, I spend about $1,000 a week. Often what happens is that person finds out they don't spend $1,000 a week, they're spending $1,500 a week.
Yeah.
Because they've misrepresented, or they think they're only spending $500 a week on groceries. They're really spending $700 a month on groceries. A week, on groceries.
Sure.
So whatever it is, it's really knowing what that number is and and understanding where the variables are.
Okay.
So getting to your true expenses includes things like, we're getting ready to go into holiday season. Have you planned for gift giving or travel during the holidays?
Okay. So Traci, because we're getting close to the end here. Yeah. So but beyond that, are there any other quick steps? Like, can you just bullet point them?
Yeah. So I'm a UNAB certified coach. That's You Need a Budget. I truly believe in finding a budgeting app because I think it's real time. It saves you so much time. And I know in a world where everything's moving fast, having an application that you can use is a really important piece. You can automate a lot of it. You can link your accounts so you don't have to input every single transaction.
Sure.
All those things. The next thing is, looking at your debt and evaluating, gathering all of your statements and understanding what your interest is. You mentioned that earlier, so that you know exactly what is going out the door in debt repayment, and coming up with a plan to either eliminate it or reduce it. Everybody has a different way of, working with debt. I like to look at debt. I like to look at credit cards as more of debit cards as opposed to credit. But sometimes I have systems, I've worked with people where we actually do rely a little bit on their credit to help get them out of sort of the crisis that they're in.
Sure. And
there are ways to do that are not, while people may disagree with my methodology, it actually does help eliminate it is a debt elimination process. Right. It just
Traci,
takes longer.
I hate to cut you off,
That's okay.
But we're out of time.
That's okay.
So here's the solution to this. We just check our socials, and I will shout it from the rooftops. We're definitely going to do a financial well-being workshop, which hopefully will turn into something more at the studio. You can also find Traci on her website at
unlockingfinancialwellbeing.com.
Yes, and you'll find her name in our description. I'll have a link to her website in the description. And guys, I just want to thank you for being here and tuning in. And I hope you got as much out of this as I did. Thank you so much, Traci, for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're fantastic. So guys, just keep coming back and we'll keep giving you the good stuff. So thanks for tuning in to The Good Soul. See you next time. Bye.